Hey guys, I am back and still having the same struggle I had earlier this week. I don't want to speak into this camera. Nope. Nope. But here I am. I'm going to speak anyhow, and hopefully something that I say will be of effect for whosoever shall care to listen. But I guess I've been having a few different reoccurring themes of words being spoken in my life. I won't speak about all of them, just one thing today that really kind of impacted me this past week. And so I actually was having an interview with a volunteer, and just so many gems that this lady was giving me. And so I gathered them up, a lot of her story. I want to share some of that with you today. But kind of to jumpstart that, I think about the time of year that it is. It's spring, and you often hear the term spring cleaning, right? Where you go through what's old, what doesn't fit, what is dusty and needs to be cleaned, freshened, and maybe regifted, to someone else who would have purpose for the things that no longer have purpose in our lives. And I think the idea of getting rid of things, cutting off things, cleaning things is rough for us all. We become so used to them. We have familiarity, we have history with these things. And so the idea of saying it's now time to release you can be really tough. But I think that it's something that we should do often in our lives. One of the things that the Lord has been speaking to me much about is just asking him about everything. Like the minutia, the things we feel like, oh, I know what to do in the situation, or I have clarity, I have experience, I have wisdom. He's like, no, you should be bringing everything to me. And how much more I think about the things that impact our lives the most. One of those being relationships. I remember I tell people that 2020 was a year of the great purge in my life, where it was like everything that I could look to for security outside of the Lord for, it was like he wanted it gone. And either he was going to allow me to get to the place where I released it, or he was going to pry it from my little clench, 6-month-old fist, because that's what it was becoming like. This is mine and I want to keep it. But sometimes it is just time for things, for seasons, for people, for places, right, to no longer be a part of our present and go into our future. And that was actually one of the things that the interviewee, who really ended up being more like a counselor, in that interview session, was to me. And it was so neat too. One of the things she had said, she was like, you thought this was going to be one thing and it ended up being another. Like, that's just like God. Like, for us to walk into something, to approach a person and to think like, this is what this is going to be. But he uses it and uses them maybe in a way that we never expected. And so I've always been really blessed by that. I've also been really wounded by that, because sometimes I did think it was going to be something that it just wasn't. Girl, that was not your husband. And it's fine. It's really fine. So one of the things that she talked about was a struggle that she had with like eating and overeating and gluttony, which is something that I have struggled with as well. I can be as small as I want to be, but it don't mean that I'm not eating too much. And so it's something I have to lay before the Lord and fast and pray over at times in my walk as well. And so as she was talking about that, she was just mentioning whether it's a practice, a habit, a belief, a person, right? She talked about how everything doesn't belong in our future. And she said there are certain things that we can't even bring into our house. Like, we think that we're strong enough to resist, to fight, to still be who we are called to be. But oftentimes there are things Whether, again, a relationship, a friendship, something that we're watching on TV, that is impacting us, that is slowly letting down our walls of resistance to sin, are just the things that aren't fruitful in our lives. And so it's just really important that, again, that we're just bringing all that before the Lord and asking him, does this still need to be here? Does this relationship need to be here? Do I still need to involve myself, with this particular thing? And so I just really love that she said that to me, as I had shared a struggle with her about whether or not a relationship should be made in my life or whether or not I needed to release it. And so she was like, just asking me, to ask the Lord, it's like you asked him this one question right at this level and he showed you an answer. Why don't you go the whole way and now ask him, does this relationship need to remain at all? And so just wanted to bring that to you. The other thing that I thought was really impactful that she talked about was that she said that what was there previously was familiar to her. And so familiar to her. And so she talked about, again, being overweight, and so losing weight and embracing this change was foreign. But she talked about how that actually was going to produce freedom in her life. But everything else before that, right, the comfort of food had been familiar, but familiarity actually was bondage. And so for you, if you look at your life, if you examine it, what about your life right now? What about your relationships? What about the things that you do and involve yourself with? What about that is actually bondage that you need to let go of? And maybe you only will know that, right, when you really bring it before the Lord and talk to him about it. And so I just encourage you to do that. And so I'm just going to leave you with this devotion that later that day, we're sitting at the table for our lunchtime, and I hand the book to one of our volunteers. I said, just choose something. And as she's flipping through the book, I see the words trust and obey. And I was like, oh, trust and obey. Pretty much what the Lord is telling me to do is to trust him and to obey him as he leads. And so she ended up choosing that one. And so I'm just going to read it to you. It says, when I used to ride horses, when I used to ride horses, I had a special relationship with my thoroughbred named Augie. Because I fed him, brushed him, and exercised him, Augie knew me and trusted my judgment when I guided him through his performance in the ring show. It was a joy of his heart to do my will because he trusted my wisdom. In 1 Peter 4:19, we read, keep on doing what is right and trust your lives to the God who created you, for he will never fail you. We are to trust God and do what is right. Oh, that we will be like a simple horse and trust the wisdom of the one holding the reins in our lives. If we'd only take the time to really know our master, as my horse knew me, we trust him and obey him more easily and more faithfully. Isaiah 1:3 says, even as an ox knows its owner and a donkey recognizes its master's care, but Israel doesn't know its master. My people don't recognize my care for them. We question the maze of obstacles on the course of life that the Lord sets before us. Oh, sure, it may seem confusing, but God knows. And he would never place anything before us that he thought we could not handle without his grace. And so here's our prayer. Lord, I want to trust you with the reins of my life. You alone know what lies ahead and have the power to guide me in life's uncertainties. Today, will you allow the Lord to guide you?